My name is Jef Daems. I'm the project leader of KLIP. KLIP is in fact a portal, quite radical, I think. I hope to convince you about that within 15 minutes. It's Inspire-based. It's a digital exchange platform. It's about utility network information, and it's located in Flanders. So we are an agency of the government, of the Flemish government, that is operating this portal. Okay, the official name in Dutch is Informatie Vlaanderen, and we have a mission. So we are developing a coherent government-wide information policy, and we are supporting the transition of the Flemish government to an information-driven government, and that's quite ambitious, I think. Some people of you knew us maybe as AGIF, so we are the agency formerly known as AGIF, the Agency of Geographical Information in Flanders, and we made a transition to Informatie Vlaanderen, which has a wider range of responsibilities, and it's more than just geographical information. So now we have the challenge to widen this range with geographical information within the information as such in Flanders. Okay, what about this project? Well, it went terribly wrong in Belgium, in Llorente in 2004. So there was a massive gas explosion in Llorente in the summer. 24 people were killed, 132 people were injured. And if you see on the right here, so there were some red dots here, firefighters working on, and 5 of them were killed in action. So this was a massive stroke for the country. So if we have these major problems, what can we do as a government to prevent these things? And I think very important is that we as a government, we could facilitate some things. We can facilitate, for example, information exchange. We can facilitate communication about these things. That's a bit the aim of the project. Well, in the first phase, we came to a solution where a plan requester makes a plan request in KLIP, in the first version of KLIP, and this request is sent to different cable and pipeline managers that were active in that area of the request. But these cable and pipeline managers, they were still sending their cable and pipeline information directly to the plan requester. That was in the first phase, but what was the consequence of this? It is that this plan requester was receiving this information in very different kinds of formats, digital formats, analog formats, different scales, different colors, different base layers, all this kind of stuff. This is not the ideal situation. As of the 1st of January, we have a different phase. We have the digital phase with KLIP. So we have still this plan requester that is requesting these plans in the KLIP. KLIP is still sending these requests to the cable and pipeline manager, but there's a huge difference with the first phase. It is that the answers are sent to the KLIP by the cable and pipeline managers in a standardized format. What is KLIP doing now? It is, in fact, consolidating all these answers into one package, into one answer for this plan requester, and this answer is provided to the plan requester. Let's talk about the model here. So our solution is based on Inspire. We are using the generic network model with the utility services involved in Inspire. We have also the activity complex object here. So this is standardized Inspire stuff. On the next level, we have these different types of cable and pipes like electricity, telecom, thermal things, water, sewer, and all these things. But we in Flanders, we extended the Inspire model with extra information, with depth information, extra topography, extra maps, annotations, household connections, and these things. This is, in fact, a model that we are using, that the cable and pipeline managers, in fact, are using to send the answers to the CLIP, and we are consolidating all these answers to the plan requester. Normally, I couldn't explain it better than with a small introductory film, but I think it's more interesting for you that I will present a demo of the application of CLIP. Before I start the demo, you have to know that we are using GRB, which is the Flemish reference layer, base layer, a large-scale base layer that we developed within the agency. We have the IMKL, which is the Uniform Information Model on top of Inspire. And we have also a uniform presentation model, and this is also something that we had to develop within the project. This is in fact the application. I already opened it. So we have here some information about the plan. I think the base layer is behind, but it's in grayscale and it doesn't look very pretty. Oh, that's not, wait a minute. Normally, just a moment. I have to close this first. Okay. Now I can present you some demo of the solution. So we have this. This, in fact, is an app installed, is an exe file installed on this Windows machine, but it's also installed on a tablet. So I have, with me, I have a tablet where it is also installed. Within here, this is in fact the end result, one of the end results of the project. We have here some reference information about the plan request, some own references of the plan requester, the date that it is asked, the periods of the works, location of the works. It's in a small community here. For example, also the method of excavation works that is done by here. The depth of the excavation here, 500 centimeters. And we have here all the cable and pipeline managers involved in a small list. So we have here a few of them with some emergency numbers, with some emails, etc. This is not public information. This is not provided in public. This is with a secured application. Within here, when I switch off these things, this is in fact the zone of the excavation works where it will happen. These are the different layers presented in the presentation model of CLIP with electricity, with telecom. I can switch them on and off. For example, I can zoom in for a bit. And I have here some extra information about low voltage electricity, for example. This one is high voltage electricity. So this is very important for the entrepreneurs, for the construction workers, in order to prevent damage on these cables, but also prevent some personal damage as well. Very important also when I switch here to the different companies, for example, the water here. It's also the material of these pipes and cables. For example, here it is some pipe in iron, but here it is in Dutch we call vezel cement. This is in fact having some asbestos in it, so this is also quite dangerous when they are working over here on the other side of the street. So we can switch on and off these different teams and sub-teams which are corresponding with the Inspire model. We have these cable and pipe managers that I can switch on and switch off, just like this. And I have here some extra information about household connections, about annotations done on the system, about depths, and also about extra plans. For example, this one here is from Proximus. Proximus is the major telecom company in Belgium. So we have some details about this extra plan in here. And this is the PDF that is scanned and is digitized. And in here we have some profile of the electronically steered drilling work that was done by Proximus beyond the streets. No, below the street, below the surface. This is in fact a small demo of the offline viewer. This viewer is used offline, or can be used offline by construction workers, and within a few months it can be installed on different rough pads or tablets. It's just a small demo. I just switched back to the presentation now. Okay, this is not an endpoint. It's just a kind of phase within the project. There are a few next big things within the KLIP digital phase. For example, I'm from the Flanders region, but we also have some excavation works in Brussels and the Walloon region. So we are now preparing an interregional agreement with the Brussels region and with the Walloon region to use the same IMKL model within Belgium, which is the extension on Inspire. This is very important so that the national companies like Proximus, like Fluxys, who are working and who are having networks in all different regions, that they are using the same IMKL model and that they can digitize and vectorize their information. Also, a very important thing is that we are sharing the knowledge with our colleagues from the Netherlands. There was also a presentation this morning about their solution for excavation works and to request some plans. So we are sharing our knowledge with them, and they're sharing with us about IMKL, Inspire, and the implementation. And then there are three other important big things in this project, and this is in fact the second step. This is first about data quality, second is data quality, and also the third one is data quality. Because now we are having the tooling, we are facilitating, but it's very important that these companies are really upgrading their digital information by all means, in fact. That is very important for these construction workers. We have seen lots of different implementation of vectorizing this data with lots of different data qualities as well. For example, Proximus, which is the largest telecom company, has about 250,000 kilometers of cables in Belgium. So it took them about 7 years to get to this IMKL model. So it is very important to have this data quality in place. Okay, last slide. It's just about 15 minutes, so a lot of attention within this project went to legal aspects. The use of KLIP is enforced by law. I can tell about this for more than an hour, I think. Also, the terms of use of this information is very important because utility services are within some safety regulations, so it's very important. The business case for investment and operational management is very important. We had made a business case together with the cable and pipeline managers and the construction workers to make this project happen. Managing a variety of interests of the stakeholders, but also some conflicts of interest between construction workers and cable and pipeline managers, for example. A lot of work went to the project governance with a steering committee and some working groups on IMKL, for example. And also the technical workout is very important about user experience design, as you have seen in the plenary session with the last speaker this morning. Also the Agile Scrum methodology that we are using, automated testing, continuous integration. So these are more technical workouts where I can provide some information about, but it's not enough time to get through these things in 15 minutes. Okay, JRC is having a game, and this is the link about it. I just started the game myself with the implementations app, so KLIP is registered now in this application, this game. But for more info, you have to go to the Inspire booth to know about this game. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Jef. I think it was pretty impressive. I have heard several times about the underground cadastre, but this is the first time I actually have seen it, and I'm sure that it is of an enormous value for private and public entities that are involved in making any type of services to the citizens on spot. So it was a very, very useful presentation. As you have already said, the more information about the KLIP project can be found in the Inspire booth. So in the interest of time, I would also postpone any discussion with you to bilateral meetings after our session. And let's then move from the Flanders to the municipality of CÁCERES, where we will hear about the experience from upgrading the municipal spatial data infrastructure in line with the Inspire. And we are going to have actually two speakers. So Luis Antonio and Faustino, the floor is yours.
Muy bien, gracias.
Good afternoon. My name is Luis Antonio Alvarez, and this is my colleague, Faustino Cordero. We come from Cáceres, from Spain, and thank you very much for your attention. I apologize for our English. I hope that the presentation will find interesting for you. Firstly, we go to located Cáceres in Spain. Cáceres is about 300 kilometers from Spain and 1,000 kilometers from Barcelona. It's a big, beautiful, and stupendous city with a big history. The city was founded by Romans in the 34 before Christ. Is the most extensive area, is the municipal more extensive area from Spain, 1,700 kilometers, and however, it's only 95,000 inhabitants. It was declared Human Heritage City by UNESCO in 1986. We began to 1995. In this year, the organization of the municipality of Cáceres is into several departments. With the arrival of the first computer, each department each department use its own database, and to access and to share information is very difficult. All of information is possible to locate in a point on a plane. The municipality of Cáceres decided in 1995 to create a geographic information system to resolve this problem. The scheme of the organization of the Cáceres GIS, well, the cartography and the database are situated in a central server. The GIS department controls the operation is okay, and with the support, very important, the support with the computing department. Municipal departments can access to the GIS through the intranet. Each municipal department can access to control or to modify our data, but only consult the rest of the information. We agreements with external companies and utility companies in order to share information and complete the system. And finally, all the information is available in website, in apps, and Weavers. And what is the main feature of the Cáceres GIS? Well, the first one, 21 years of experience, and four main features. Cáceres GIS has been made entirely from the municipality. The GIS department, firstly. The more important thing, non-external company dependencies, very important. Different tools have been developed to make the system more accessible and more friendly. It's programming in Visual Basic for application, and to access, to use the Cáceres GIS is very easy for them. It has been compiled in a big amount of information in different sources, and all are in the same system. And finally, any citizens can consult the storage information in the system via internet. We can access to information mainly through internet. Well, some image about the project managed by the Cáceres GIS. Cadastre, urban planning, street and license, street map and license, gardens, road networks. For example, the public paths with more than 1,000 kilometers, infrastructure, water, electrical and gas nets, municipal historical archive with a lot of information previous to 1950, and how the citizen access to the information managed by the Cáceres GIS. Complete access through the offices, municipal offices, is the most complete access. But through website, Cáceres G's website is available about since 1999. Through social networks, mainly Facebook and Twitter, and web app platform for mobile platform, Cáceres G's, Cáceres View app is the mainly, and also paper and PDF format. For example, OpenStreetMap and the route and the guide of the city. Precisely, the Cáceres website, the Cáceres View app was the germ of the spatial data infrastructure, because to create a Cáceres View app, it was necessary transfer a lot of DGN-GIS file in GeoJSON and shapefile. And then we need to prepare a GeoServer in order to present WMS service. It was necessary only to establish a criterion to present the organization and create the metadata and create the website only for to have a SDA. Before, Municipality of Cáceres decided to launch an open data portal, and all of the firstly data sets used in the open data is published already in Cáceres View app, and only transform this file to open data formats for open data, and the idea was use the data published in open data and the files used in the Cáceres View app to create the open data, the SDI platform.
Hello, good afternoon. In March 2016, Cáceres SDI websites opened to the public with the double objectives of giving a quality service with complete and reliable municipal information and to complement the contents offered by open data. The aim is to create a point of free access to geographic information and public data from the city of Cáceres in different formats, so they can access it and reuse in order to encourage the creation of new service and content, such as generating cross-platform web application or map for mobile and tablet showing maps and recover the geographic information provided by the SDI Cáceres. The SDI of Municipality of Cáceres is structured with the following access: data and metadata catalog, WMS service, viewers, and apps. Cáceres SDI follows the recommendation of OGC and INSPIRE standard to ensure interoperability of geographic information. Geographic data and map download. Geographic information is structured by teams for the user to access the information clearly and directly. We can access the download of geographic information in different formats: DGN, DWG, GeoJSON, KMZ, and GPX, etc. And orthophoto geodesic format, PDF and ECW. Metadata catalog is published in HTML and XML format. It has been created with the editor KTMedit free software. It shows how to access the map of the city in 2012 and downloading files such as relief, buildings, vegetation, etc. Web service, WMS. Cáceres SDI allows us to connect to all service available WMS metadata. For example, we can connect to link orthophotos of different year, or urban mobility portal, which has web service of buses, parking, bike lines, etc. Viewers can represent and overlay maps, orthophotos, and geolocalated elements from different sources, whether of their own SDI Cáceres as other map servers having information of the territory of Cáceres, such as regional SDI of Extremadura, the SDI of Spain, Cadastre, etc. Cáceres SDI have created different displays depending on the subject to be treated. The user can access simplified viewers, programmed with APS OpenLayer 3 and Leaflet, which are two open source JavaScript libraries for creating and viewing maps through any web browser. They are lighter and are optimized for mobile. Two D viewers schedule in Heron Mapping Client, open source library that facilitates the creation of web map application for browsers with the toolkit based on JavaScript, GeoEst. These viewers implement platform search, street number, place names, making them transparent, measurement, etc. They are heavier and are optimized for use on stop. Two examples show city bus and architectural heritage. Currently available two 3D viewers. The 3D viewer Historical Cáceres, based on Google AP, shows the evolution of the city from the Roman times to the present. You can view content from the municipal archive as historical photos, heraldry, construction projects, etc. In order to run it on Google Earth plugin needs to have installed. A special case is the 3D viewer Cáceres View. For now available for Windows only, and that given the processing power required only work on desktop computers. Display an orthophoto of Cáceres on digital terrain models with 3D buildings and texture municipal city. To run the Java virtual machine is needed. And now the general scheme of spatial data infrastructure Cáceres. The web is designed in WordPress. All data is stored in the map server, GeoServer, and metadata have been created with free software KTMedit. All geographic information can be viewed and downloaded on the GeoPortal, well as the app Cáceres View. And now, Cáceres View app publishes the data of the Open Data Cáceres, the Cáceres SDI, and map with information about the municipality. Since a few days ago, a new version of Cáceres View with new contents and a renewed interface is available. This new version allows you to change the setting and update the content without upgrading the app. Thanks to the design of a web application named a scene generator, which allows a user to decide in real time what content to view from among the available app. GIS development team modify the number and content of the sceneries as data upgrading in the system itself. From municipal GIS to Cáceres SDI, that they say. Cáceres GIS is a powerful tool. It has become a source of basic information from the work of many technicians and a reference point for inquiries from citizens. The Cáceres SDI is a leader in region in access of the geographic information at the highest need level, fulfilling the goal of providing quality service with complete and reliable information about the municipality. And to end up the future, photographic inventory updated, more than 30,000 photographs, improvement in the processes of transformation from GIS to SDI and GeoNetwork. And here on the screen, you can read other projects. And thank you very much for your attention. It's been a pleasure for us. Sorry for my English, I've done my best. If you have any question, it would be better in Spanish, please.
Well, I think that was a pretty impressive, and both English as well as the presentation. One of the issues that I very frequently hear when we are talking about the Inspire is that stakeholders complain about the capacities and about the finances, but I think if the city of Cáceres could, by its own efforts, by its own internal sources, develop such a range of services, viewers and applications, as you did and presented today, I think that this is one of the really very enjoyable and very welcome example that the tool we are providing is actually available to all stakeholders, and everybody who is willing to invest can actually, even without much of external support and even without much of, let's say, additional burden, use and develop a very kind of impressive range of the applications. So thanks a lot. And now I would like to invite our colleague from the Technical University in Delft, who is going to give us an update on the Inspire and member states implementation.
Good afternoon. My presentation will be somehow different from the previous and also the following one, because I'm not a developer, I'm also not a public servant or a decision maker, but I'm a researcher, and I will be looking at implementation or the status of implementation of Inspire in Europe as an outsider, so from some distance. I will be mainly presenting the work done by Joop Kromfits and Ian Masser, but they both were not able to attend, so they asked me to present the result of their work. And also Eva contributed or provided some very important input for our analysis as a practitioner or as somebody that is really working on the implementation of Inspire. And we are looking at the implementation of Inspire. We are focusing on the governance, so we are focusing on the organizational, non-technological aspects. And I would like to start with some figures, some information that was provided yesterday a lot, mainly in the plenary session, but also in some others. Some figures on the status of Inspire implementation so far. by comparing the different status, the different member states with regard to the number of data sets available, the number of services available, etc., etc. So there were some very interesting pictures available. And when seeing that, we ask ourselves, why can't we do that the same? Or can we do the same for what concerns the governance of Inspire? Can we make some kind of status, a current status, but also can we have a look at the previous developments with regard of the governance of Inspire? So can we compare member states, how they are done, and how we're dealing with different governance issues? So in fact, our question is, can we, similar to what I presented before, what you presented before, what was presented yesterday, can we create some kind of Inspire governance dashboard that provides a very strong, clear image on the status of Inspire governance in Europe? And that should be, in fact, the results of an analysis or a review of both the past but also the ongoing governance efforts in the different member states. So our analysis is focusing not on governance of Inspire at the European Union or the European Commission level. No, we're really comparing member states and how they are dealing with different governance issues. And in fact, we are doing that for two reasons. On one hand, we are doing that because we often receive questions, not only from European member states, but also from countries in other parts of the world. Question on, how should we start with governance of our SDI? How should we deal with the governance of Inspire? What are the things we should focus on? What is important or not? What is governance about? What should we do? What should we not do? That's one hand, so there really is some practical advice on how to deal with governance, a term that all of us have heard several times. We have some feeling about what's it about, but it's not always clear on how can we tackle it. That's one hand. On the other hand, I think most of you are practitioners. I think you should be aware that Inspire is in fact a very interesting case for us as researchers, but also for students to understand what Inspire SDI is about, and especially to analyze governance. Because most of you will see, governance is not quite easy. We have to deal with a lot of users. We have to deal with a lot of producers, producers at different administrative levels, different regions, different thematic domains, etc. So the governance challenge is quite big. That makes it interesting to also have a look at what are now existing governance models, theories, and whether or not can we apply them in the domain of SDI and Inspire in particular. So there are, in fact, two underlying reasons for our analysis, so a practical but also an academic exercise. Inspire governance, just a very few words. It's about the management of Inspire. You can do it by structures, but not only structures. You can also develop particular policies. You have actors involved in that, actors that might focus their activities strongly on governing, managing, coordinating. You also have institutions, so it's about management of Inspire. We address it in terms of instruments, so we make use of a list of governance instruments. We do that because those instruments are in fact quite tangible. That are things that you can see in realities, things that you can apply, things that are visible and tangible. And the focusing on coordination. Coordination, as I said before, is in fact bringing together all the involved parties, make sure that their work is coordinating, make sure that the things they are doing are in fact in alignment to each other. So that's what you understand with governance. So you have a very broad perspective. Governance is not only a governance structure or a coordination structure. No, it's in fact all instruments, all structures, processes that are aiming to bring the different involved parties together. And it's not only outside the public sector. No, more and more the challenge is also to include those actors, organizations outside the public sector. How can we now measure, how can we analyze, how can we map governance? And there we have a look at some existing models from public administration science. And one way to analyze governance is by having a look at so-called governance instruments. We made use of a list that was originally created by Verhoost and Boeckhaert. They did a similar analysis for what concerns the analysis of governance in different, at the highest level in different European countries, or OECD countries it was. So they made use of this list to analyze, on one hand, the ongoing governance activities, but also how they evolved through the time. So between, I think it was 1980 and now, they saw some developments in the use of governance instruments, how they are used, to what extent they are used, and how they were combined. And in fact, what we did was to try to apply the same approach to the analysis of governance of Inspire. where we now also see after time, we can also see some evaluations through time, we can compare countries, so there's really a lot of interesting work to have a look at from the perspective of governance. The primary source of information so far we used, because what we only did so far was the first explorative analysis, and we did it by having a look at the member state reports, so the 3-year qualitative reports countries have to submit, and in which in fact quite a lot of information is provided on the different instruments we have in mind. So you see there's a quite link. Part of our analysis was, can we now rely on those information as a valuable, complete, and correct source information or not? We have some ideas on that. So we did some testing in a first set of countries. They're here, so you know them. Our ambition is to do it for the entire Europe. So they have a complete comparison of all member states. And now I'm going to present you some very general outcomes of our first explorative analysis and to see just some main conclusions on how the different instruments are currently adopted in most of the member states, which are the main differences, how it has evolved. With regard to strategic planning, there you see quite some important or very strong diversities. Some see it in a very practical way. They only have an implementation plan. Other countries, you see, they have a more broader view. They start from an information strategy or a location information strategy. They focus more on the public service delivery to citizens. And then they see how location information can be used to implement those strategies or to provide those services. It's also an issue whether or not, or there's a lot of difference on whether or not non-government actors, private sector, academics, non-profit organizations, etc., whether or not they're involved in those strategic planning, yes or no. That's the main difference. Same for what concerns the establishment of coordination functions, entities. I think that's one of the first things that was done in quite a lot of countries. They said now we have an organization that will be responsible for the governance or the coordination of Inspire, an existing organization, other one established a new one. In many cases, that organization was not responsible only for coordination. No, it was rather about doing the work. So that was a quite easy solution. We just invent or we say you are responsible, not for, or maybe officially for coordinating, but in reality it was a lot of doing actually the work. So that's something that we see if we compare member states also over time. Division of competences, that's about who is going to do what. In essence, or originally it was each data provider was responsible for each data. So he had to provide metadata, the services, and also make sure that the data are in line with or conform with data specifications. More and more you see the development or the rise of geo-brokers that are going to be responsible for part of those tasks for those organizations that do not have the knowledge or capacity to do certain tasks. Collective decision-making, I say, more and more you have such kind of structure, such kind of councils that are available, I think, in almost all European countries. One difference between are also local governments or also private companies, private sector involved, or is it just the governments at the central level? You see there again an evolution and a difference between member states. Also the level of formalization is quite different. Establishment of partnerships that you saw in the beginning in very few countries. For instance, in Flanders, we started with a real partnerships where the partners agreed on what they should do together and or not. Now more and more you also see it in other countries. Information and knowledge sharing. I think you now, if you read reports, they all now refer to Inspire Days, to Inspire Fora. The Geo portal is not only about making data available, but also about communicating and awareness raising, etc. Newsletters, you all know them. And then legal framework, there is one key difference is about the Inspire directive and the transposition into national legislation. Some countries did it in a very, very, very strict way. They just transposed it because they had to do it. And other ones went beyond. They did it in a very more extensive way. And now you see also the same for the open data legislation and also the timing that with regard to whether it happens or not. Finally, 3 remaining instruments, performance management. There you clearly see the impact of the Inspire monitoring and reporting, which in our opinion was a very important driver for organizations to at least monitor, have an idea on the status of their SDI Inspire implementation. We still see that it's quite difficult to have information, and especially quantitative information on the level of use and the benefits. That's key conclusions. Regulated markets, or it's about bringing together producers and users. Again, originally strong focus on internal market within the public sector. And now with the introduction of open data policies, more and more member states also trying to think about the external market, so outside public sector. And then finally, financial management. There you see most member states combined different types of funding models, and not all of them have a really clear impact, or they contribute to governance, or they contribute to bringing actors together. Just some very general conclusions of our first analysis. Now, if we have a look at it from a distance, yeah, you see at this stage, after quite a while, that they started a lot of them in 2007. If you have a look at it from a distance and you only see at the presence or not of the different instruments, yeah, you see most of them at this stage are already in a certain way, to a certain extent, present in most member states. I think the only key difference is the timing in, when they were introduced. So some of that already had it before Inspire. Again, Netherlands, Flanders, they had a lot of governance instruments already in place before Inspire, and other ones did through the time. But I think if you compare the status at right now, and you do it in a very general level, way, then you have a picture that's not that interesting. So that means that we have to do some more detailed operationalization of the government instruments, and especially the precise way in which they are used. And that's something that we are working on right now. And we do that because in reality, you see that you have more advanced implementations of those traditional government instruments we lose. And a lot of those more advanced implementations, they focus in fact on two things. They focus on more and more opening SDI Inspire, so more and more involving non-government actors in the development, but also in providing them access to the infrastructure. So not only the traditional public sector focused SDI, but thinking about how can we include other actors in it. And then in the context of the scope of this session, another challenge is how can we integrate, how can we in fact organize the governance with the already existing government instruments for e-government. And there I think Flanders is a good example with regard to the creation of a coordination body. Before you had coordination e-government, coordination location information, spatial information. What they now did was create one coordination entity. That's a typical example, but you see the same for legal framework, you see the same for performance management, funding, strategic planning, etc. I think that's something, and if we do that, then you have a more diverse way, and I think we should go more in that direction, that we have a more complete and more correct overview of the different countries. And then my final slide, in fact, about why are we doing that? How important is it, Inspire governments? Is it important? Should we, is it the key? Our idea is no, it's not the main objective. It's not an end in itself. For us, the most important, in fact, the performance. So performance. So one issue is how can we measure governance? Are we doing it in the good way? The list of instruments, is that the best one? Are we not neglecting some important things that are happening in reality? So we have still discussion after our first analysis on is our list or is our approach valuable, yes or no. But to come back on the issue on why are we doing that, for us the key is still about Inspire performance and whether or not data are available, they are accessible. Maybe that's not even the end in itself. Data are used not only by the public sector agencies but also outside, and in the end some actual benefits are realized through the use of data that are made accessible and available. And the key challenge will be, how is the link between those two aspects? How do certain governance instruments actually contribute to the availability, accessibility, use, and the realization of benefits? And I think that's the complete picture. So for us, governance, it's important. It provides some certain impact on the performance, but it's not, in fact, the end in itself. I think that's how we see it. Okay, that was it. Thanks for your attention.
That was a very, very interesting piece of an academic work you have done there. I was very glad to see that more or less it coincides or it fits with the findings of the refit of the Inspire that we have published only very recently in August, where we tried to assess the regulatory fitness of the Inspire against criteria of effectiveness, efficiency, relevance, added value, and so on and so forth. And our finding actually may very well be in the same direction which you have described, and I will be very glad to perhaps follow up later in more details on the result and on the findings of this quite relevant and very timely piece of work. But as we are running against the clock, I basically would like to introduce the last speaker, who is going to talk about the issue which is called spot booking. I must admit I was trying to Google frenetically now what the spot bookings mean, but I didn't get to any conclusive results. So the floor is yours to tell us more about spot booking and what you have done out of it and link to the Inspire, please.
Okay, thank you. Let's explain what spot booking is. I'm having the clock in my hand, 15 minutes. I'm not going to use your time, but I claim my time. I want to talk about a use case of Inspire. And the use case is called spot booking, a success story of an eGovernment solution for managing the public space available for the whole EU market thanks to the use of Inspire data and eGovernmental APIs. Okay, I want to start with a warning before you leave. This is not a technical presentation. I'm a CEO. But if you expect a technical presentation, you may, of course, leave. What I'm trying to talk about in the next couple of minutes is about this problem domain. Roadworks. But actually, the problem domain is more closer than you think. It's also about if you have a relocation, if you move to another house and you want to change some things, you need a container in front of your door. Most of us have experienced that already, and the process that we have to go through to the local authorities to get the permission to have that container. Occupying the public space is something that is, we don't think about it, but we are annoying other people doing that. So finding a solution to make the annoyance lower, that's maybe an opportunity. Other things are, well, people are blocking the road by creating a barbecue, having an event, doing all sorts of things in that public space. And actually, you can't imagine how many stakeholders are involved when we are blocking that street. You have the police, because most of the time, if there is something on the street, they have to do the signalization. We have the need for signalization. You have sometimes fire services, because there are security issues involved. Of course, there are mobile transport companies that have eventually a detour. And if you are claiming public space and you didn't ask it to your local authority, then probably you get a ticket because you are doing things that are not allowed. And to make that process better, well, the Flemish region had a very good invention, and we had already a talk from Jef about KLIP. Well, there's another thing also, that's HIPOD. That's a generic information platform for the public domain. And what is good is that there is an obligation to register also on a geographical way all the impact and share that information between all the stakeholders. And in Flanders, it's an obligation since July this year. And well, together with the Inspire initiative and that sort of obligations, well, for me as an entrepreneur, that likes to me an opportunity. I'll try to explain, but before I explain, I want to take you with me in a detour. Already disclosed that I'm an entrepreneur. Who am I? Well, actually, and that's another story, it's a detour. The world is changing very fast. When I was in university, I was formed to design that sort of systems. I'm an electrotechnical engineer. And actually, I never designed such systems. But you can ask yourself, what has that sort of systems to do with GIS? Well, actually, if I map this on the city of Barcelona, you can imagine that pattern recognition and visualization is very important. So I studied in software, and I do this already more than 30 years. And because we don't have a lot of time, and you can look my presentation, well, I have a company, and we are doing bespoke software. And to have an idea that our projects between 2 and 7 years, and between 2 and 7 persons are probably. And from that company, I created another company, an open source company, and we created an open source platform, which is GeoMayas. And last year, I won the Inspire Conference Award. I became the vice president of OSGeo. By the way, who knows what OSGeo is, of who OSGeo is? Who don't know who OSGeo is? Well, actually, thank you, people from Coursera, because you are stating that you are independent and creating software systems without external parties. That's very great. But I saw that you used a lot of software that is software from OSGeo. And that's fine, because the OSGeo software is free to use. But it's not bad to say that you are using that software, because other people have worked on it and invested it, and you can use it, which is great. And okay, I'm not going to go into detail about the projects, but I believe in co-creation. And so we start with a new product, which is the Inspire GS project, and which is promoted on a booth that we collaboratively share with a couple of other companies. And that's the end of the detour. Back to the subject. The opportunity, remember HIPOD, the use case. It's a very great idea, a very good initiative. But it has a huge impact on the local administrations. They have to register all that stuff. They have to communicate with all the stakeholders. There's a lot of work involved. So the real opportunity is, because the system is created by an open API, well, we made it, we automated it. And we created a system where all the stakeholders could do their own part of the thing. And we bring it to the market as a SaaS platform. We automated the administration. We reduced the typically process time from a couple of weeks into a couple of days. And we reduced the frustrations that are involved in paper administrations. The product is now available in Flanders. We are selling it. It's called Spotbooking. That's the explanation of the name. Booking spots. And today we have 10 local authorities using it. And there is interest from other local authorities, and it's growing. So we thought that's, well, actually we built the system as an integrated solution. It's, what we did was automating the process, and we used existing systems, like we used the single sign-on system of the EID system. We are integrating with banking applications, with the banking platform, because if you want to certify something and you want to use the space, sometimes you have to pay money for that. And of course, we are using Inspire services. And by doing that, for instance, this is one screenshot of the application. If a user typing in his address where he lives, well, automatically we calculate where he could eventually reserve the space. And then he can very simply indicate, I want 3 parking lots. He can rotate them or reorganize them or move them, and he can reserve rectangular areas. That's all. Very simple for the user. But all the information and for what is the intention and who is involved and if there are security plans involved and so on are gathered within the project, and every stakeholder can look to and at the same information and exchange all this information. And the information of the reservations are immediately registered on the central HIPOD server and are available as open data. Which brings us back to the public space, to the market. I have, to end my presentation, a question. We invested in this service. The people in Flanders are happy to have that service. We are using Inspire data. So normally, if we live in a harmonized world, that application should be available in the rest of Europe. So I'm asking to the people here in the audience, is this something that can be useful for other local authorities in other parts of Europe? Is there interest to work further on that and to see how we can create these services in other parts? I'm open for feedback, as I'm involved in open source, and I believe in co-creation, and I am also an entrepreneur, which means that I have to earn my money by doing that sort of things, and I'm happy that not every local government is not dependent on external parties. I think we should find ways to make our own life easier and everybody do his own thing. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to receive some feedback.